EVP-WNBA Facebook page. Here is your host, Bryan Pasquale.
What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better starting quarterback than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better 1-2 punch at running back than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better tight end than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons, one of the best run-blocking offensive lines in the NFL? What if I told you the Steelers' strength going into week one is their run game? However, stopping the run is what the Falcons' defense does well. What if I told you the Steelers' last 8 games of the season have 6 divisional games mixed in with the Eagles, 2 years removed from the Super Bowl, and back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Swifties? What if I told you the Pittsburgh Steelers have question marks at almost every position? In a 17-game season, a lot can happen. But what if I told you week 1 and week 2 on the road are must-win games for the Steelers? What if I told you the wait is over and it's NFL season this weekend? But we start the NFL season tomorrow night at 8:20, the Ravens at the Kansas City Swifties. Then Friday night at 8:15 in Brazil, yes, South America, in Brazil, it's the Packers versus the Eagles. I don't think either team will be wearing green. And then on Sunday, the Steelers take on the Falcons at 1 o'clock. Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. You can check him out alongside co-host Mike Mueller every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube. Search Two Dumb Yinzers, that's D-U-M, Two Dumb Yinzers. They talk Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, and much more. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. If you'd like to chime in today, please give us a call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Ryan, it is football season.
It is great to be back, Bryan. You know what? I'm happy that this is just not some other political show. That seems to be all I'm seeing right now. My eyes are falling out of my head with these ads and commercials. Bryan, I'm ready for a good couple hours of sports, and that's what you're going to have today because why? Why do we have a couple hours of sports?
Vote for One Man's Opinion.
That's right.
I will do the next 4 years what I didn't do the last 4 years.
So what you're trying to tell me, Bryan, is it's not looking real good for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into this opening week?
Listen, week 1 and week 2, the Falcons and the Raiders were supposed to be 2 cupcakes to get things straightened out, with our new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, bunch of new offensive linemen. But it turns out with a lot of injuries and a lot of improvements in the offseason by the Falcons, this first game is going to be tough.
One of the things that I did notice, Bryan, is a lot of the people that we brought in, Arthur Smith brought in with him. When he came here as the offensive coordinator, you started to notice this guy from Atlanta coming, this guy from Atlanta coming, this guy from Atlanta coming. Well, Atlanta wasn't a real good team prior to this. Atlanta wasn't a real good team under Arthur Smith when he was the offensive coordinator. I would have rather him started plucking players off of his Tennessee team from 3 years prior to that. But, Bryan, it's debatable because, as I said, they did, and as you were saying, they did a lot this offseason, and it seems like we got a lot of what they got rid of.
Yeah, basically we got their freaks and their outcasts from the Falcons, right? And they kept all their good players.
Yeah, that's the way that it seems. I hope that we're wrong, but Bryan, I got to tell you, I can at least off the top of my head think of a half dozen guys that followed Arthur Smith here, and I don't know if that's such a great thing.
Well, here's my situation. The Kirk Cousins ad to the Falcons is obviously their biggest ad.
Yes.
This guy, over his last 9 seasons, has a quarterback rating of over 100. I mean, the guy's like a 30 touchdown, 10 interception guy per year.
Oh, easy. Just don't go to the playoffs with him. You're going to be fine. If you want to have a really good regular season.
Well, the good news is I don't think the Steelers are going to meet the Falcons in the playoffs anytime soon.
That's true.
So we do meet them week 1 down in Atlanta, hot Atlanta. Kirk Cousins is starting. They have a bunch of young guys. They also do have Ray McCloud.
Yeah.
We remember Ray. Did Ray ever did he ever deserve a jersey here?
I didn't think so. As a matter of fact, when he was down in San Francisco just last year, he was hurting us as well. So I thought, what's going on? But here we get to take another look at him in Atlanta.
Well, the one thing I didn't mention was that the Falcons have a much better wide receiver room than us. That was not on the intro there. I don't see them. Kirk Cousins, this is probably one of the weakest rooms he's had.
Absolutely. And you know what? This is what kind of scares me, Bryan, because when you take this matchup and you look at it pound for pound, it's going to come down to quarterback play. Both teams have a really strong defense. And unfortunately, our offense, there's a lot of questions to still be answered. So it's going to come down to whether Russell Wilson still has it or if Kirk Cousins is just going to do what they expect him to do in Atlanta.
Well, here's the one thing. If I ever wanted to be a professional quarterback, it would have been Dan Marino.
Okay.
Pitt guy, broke all the records, I believe, his sophomore year down in Miami.
If you ever wanted to be a quarterback?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, contractual-wise, I've always wanted to be Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, right.
Give me the 1-year deal for like top 5 quarterback in the league every year throughout your career, as opposed to that big money, and then 5 years down the road, it turns out to be not even good money.
And you got to look at Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's not a young guy anymore. He's been in the league forever. Will this guy, as good as he's been, I mean, from the top of the show, you've already said about 3 or 4 things about him that's very exceptional. Is this guy going to be able to win the Super Bowl somewhere? And was going to Atlanta the place to go if he wants to do that, Bri?
I don't know. Is he married? Because his wife might be directing him where to go.
Maybe.
Follow the money.
Right.
It's like trying to find a conspiracy theory. Just follow the money, right?
Right.
Maybe he's trying to find that conspiracy theory, how the Atlanta was not a place for the Major League World Series and they had to move it to Denver with stricter voting laws.
Yeah, right.
That was a smart move. All right, so the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to have on at 5:15 Dan the Man Neely. He's going to break down the Falcons and Steelers matchup. But before then, we're going to break it down here for you as well. Ryan, what scares you about the Falcons? First off, it's a home game for them.
Yeah.
First game of the season. Their fans are going to be fired up. It's probably going to be loud in there. Not what we lack or what we don't have going on, but what are you scared of about the Falcons?
I'm scared, and it almost answers both
concerned.
Both of those questions. I think if this Atlanta Falcon team comes out and they oppose their will on the Steelers, if they're able to come out and they're prepared and they have a game plan and they go by, because with us, I think we're going to struggle. It's going to be with this offense, the offensive line's a disaster. It's a wreck from top to bottom. I mean, come on. So I think if they're able to come out and impose their will and play a seamless game, that scares me because we need this game to be ugly. I think we need this to be a defensive game. We need this to be a game where TJ perhaps punches a ball out at the end of the game or something like this happens. I think the Steelers need this game to stay ugly. And what I'm afraid of, Bryan, is if Atlanta could come in and move the ball methodically down the field, do it seamlessly, and able to play their game to where they get ahead of us, I find it difficult to believe that we're going to be able to come back.
All right, I don't want to get away from this one game because I'd like to stay on that, but you seem to be concerned about the Steelers getting down early, maybe a score or two, maybe down 10, 14 points, and being able to play from behind.
Yes.
If you were the Kansas City Swifties, that wouldn't bother you
because
you got
all.
Patrick Mahomes. You're
right.
going to, you may not win it, but you got a chance. Do the Steelers have enough punch through the air and offensively to take that early deficit and come back?
I think you really got to take this down by layers. I'm going to be honest with you, Bri. Because
like an onion?
Like an onion.
Don't make me cry. They make me cry.
The more you peel back, the more it stinks, believe me, too. So the offensive line, it starts there. You have a rookie center that got thrown into the Wolves. You have Troy Fatano, the number 1 pick for the Steelers this year. He's just coming back off of an injury. Didn't get much time or reps in preseason at all. Broderick Jones, he's kind of confused on what side he's going to be playing on. And then the big injury just this past week with Isaac Seumalo, plugging Spencer Anderson into that spot. He's very versatile, but the left guard is the one position he hasn't started yet.
Yeah, and I believe he's only played a couple games. It's not like he has, a half a season veteran.
So that's the first layer.
Okay. All right. So the offensive line, let's just break it down here.
Yeah.
Right now we've got Dan Moore Jr. starting at left tackle.
Yes.
Spencer Anderson starting at left guard. Zach Frazier at center. Right guard.
James Daniels.
Daniels. I always forget it's James. Okay, so James Daniels at right guard, and more than likely Broderick Jones at right tackle.
Yeah.
Fatano's not even 100% even dressing.
Right.
Let's just say, for instance, Fatano doesn't dress, and one of those 5 guys gets hurt in the first series. But what are we looking at then?
Well, that's or a guard position. The thing about the NFL, this as well as I do. You're always one play away from having a season-ending injury. So let's just say that as I was going to peel back layers, that was going to be something that I did run into, but we could start here with the offensive line.
I just ripped the Band-Aid off.
You just ripped it right off.
Well, okay, so McCormick's our backup.
Yeah.
He was, what, a fourth-round pick?
Who, again, is another rookie, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he got very little play in the preseason, probably in the second half, and that's all of his experience. It's a very, very thin offensive line, and it was supposed to be one of the strengths based on what we've drafted the last 2 seasons, right?
Absolutely. It's just unfortunate the way the cookie crumbled, and this is the hand that we're stuck with. I mean, it is what it is right now.
All right. Another thing I have a huge issue with.
Look, go ahead. Can I get onto the second layer real quick?
You break it down.
All right. So
break it down like it's Australian breakdancing.
let me do that. Why don't we get that on camera too? No, but so the next layer, of course, is your wide receiver room. In the very same example I'm going to give you with these guys. So your wide receiver room is George Pickens. It is Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Van Jefferson. So not a real strong room. You could all agree on that. We all kind of wanted that number 2 to come here so we could have a decent 1-2 punch. Let's say George Pickens week 1 goes down with an ACL. Now you have a wide receiver room led by Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, and Scotty Miller. So you see, like, there's layers here. So if Atlanta could come out and, as I said, can impose their will and play a strong football game to where they can get up and down the field, I think that, that puts them in favor by default.
Without even any injuries, Calvin Austin III is our number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know how that helps us.
You know what? When he came, listen, when we first got him, when he was a draft pick that was stolen from the Baltimore Ravens, and I thought, you know what, this guy, in a couple years, give him a couple seasons, and he's going to be able to fit right in his zone. I hope that we see that guy that we hoped that we was getting when we stole him from Baltimore in the draft, because if he's the same guy that he was last year, the year before, we could blame it on the Matt Canada offense. We could blame it on a few things, but I think that it's time for Calvin Austin to really show what he's got this season.
No injuries. Calvin Austin III is our starting wide receiver. No injuries. Spencer Anderson and Zach Frazier are our starters. No injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 17-game, 18-week-long season. We've got to start off fast, and we already have injuries.
All I got to say is we got to be thankful we're not starting with the second half of the season first. If we got thrown into that part of the season right now,
it might be 2-6 to start the season.
So you're right. We have to find a way to get wins, stack wins as much as possible in that first 7, 8, 9 games, because after that, it's going to be real tough. And if we don't have our stuff together, that's going to be a long stretch of 2 months of football. Yeah,
we have a lot of away games. I have it written down here somewhere in my handy-dandy.
Don't it seem like every game's away?
Yeah, it's like we're away at Atlanta, away at Denver, then home, away at Indianapolis. Then we have a home game, away again. So 4 out of our first 6 games are away.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't help matters.
I mean, it's Atlanta, Denver, what are they? The Los Angeles Chargers?
Yes. But
is it the Baltimore Colts or is it the Indianapolis Colts these days? That's week 4.
But, going to Denver's never easy. Even if they're not a good team, you're dealing with the altitude. These games aren't a given. None of these games are a given in the NFL. And if you're a team that's struggling, it can be very difficult. So we, again, as you stated, Bryan, we have to find ways to somehow accumulate wins in that first 7, 8, 9 games, or this may be jeopardizing Mike Tomlin's record. Okay,
so for the last few seasons, one of the big knocks on the Steelers is that they're kind of bland, they're kind of boring. We haven't gone out and done anything exciting. It's just more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. Finish, maybe just missing the playoffs, maybe just making the playoffs and getting crushed in the playoffs. At the beginning of this offseason, we were thrilled. We were like, look at all these moves.
Yeah.
We got Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. We got rid of Deontay Johnson, got in Dante Jackson. Making all these moves, brought in the middle linebacker from Baltimore.
Oh, Patrick
Queen, yes. All these moves, and then all of a sudden, we still needed a few more pieces, and none of that happened, huh?
A friend of mine and I kind of joked about this. What if we are...
you have a friend?
Unbelievable, right? But what if this is Omar Khan pulling one over on our eyes? Maybe Omar Khan's not that great of a GM. He's just really good at making things sound as good as or better than they are. I'm not saying that. I don't think that. But, just tongue in cheek, we had made that comment. And you know what? To this point, everything that he's done has kind of been for nil.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, that's why they play the games. We're going to go over more of Week 1 matchup with the Steelers. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
This is Andy Toole, men's basketball coach at Robert Morris University, here to talk about my friends at Falcone Moon Township Ford. I know what it takes to win a basketball game. It begins with practice and a team of players who want to win. The same is true of the team at Moon Township Ford. Professionals who will win you over. They'll find the best rate and terms on a car loan to help you get the best deal. Make a fast break and avoid the roadblocks that stop you from finding the car you want. Go where I go. Moon Township Ford.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford. We're friends. Send friends.
I've heard people refer to older veteran athletes as being all washed up. Well, quite frankly, that's a rather nice compliment if you ask me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. When you hear something like that, you have to consider the source of the water, that is. After all, getting washed up with Beaver Falls Municipal Authority water can't be a bad thing. That's because for over 80 years, we've made it possible for everyone to feel washed up, even if they are not star athletes. Click bfwater.net.
Want the ultimate cigar experience? Fat Boy Cigars Premium Tobacco Shop and Smoking Lounge is located off of 376 in Center Township. Fat Boys Cigars offers all your cigar needs with an assortment of some of the finest cigars, including small batch boutique cigars and over 21 aromatic pipe tobacco blends and accessories. Stop and see their luxurious lounge accommodations. Book them for your next event. Visit their social media page for a list of event dates and times. Welcome to the Fat Boys world, Beaver County.
How can I help my child to make positive choices?
Start with a conversation. Start making the difference.
Beaver County Parents, is your child between the ages of 10 and 14? If so, Keystone Wellness Programs is offering the Strengthening Families program in your area. This free program is designed for families to have fun together while learning ways to promote family bonding and communications. For more information about upcoming sessions near you, visit KeystoneWellnessPrograms.org. Paid for with PA taxpayer dollars.
You're listening to Beaver County Radio, coming to you live from the Fried Transportation Studios. Beaver County Radio and Fried Transportation, a winning team. 99.3 FM and WBVP, providing news, sports, and information for 76 years.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. You can check him out alongside co-host Mike Mueller every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube. Search Two Dumb Yinzers. That's D-U-M. Two Dumb Yinzers. They talk Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, and much, much more. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. If you'd like to chime in today, please give us a call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. We do have a caller. What is it? The anonymous gambler?
Yes.
Did I butcher that enough?
Gambler, yes. So I heard you guys talking about the Steelers receiving room, and I have to say, Van Jones, he is a Super Bowl winning receiver, as the fifth or sixth receiver on that team, and I guess he's the number 2 now on the Steelers. This is a guy that, when you're filling out a DraftKings lineup, and you have an extra $1,000, you just throw him in as the flex, and he's a receiver too.
And also Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller, one of our 5 receivers, was a Super Bowl winning receiver as well. Bryan,
they have the pedigree. Basically, the Van Jefferson and Scotty Miller are the Kamala Harris of the Steelers. Nobody actually went and voted for them, but we did get them anyway.
Well, what is up with this line? What is the strength going to be on offense? You brought a guy in that's basically a chef. All he wants to talk about is cooking as the quarterback. You brought another guy in that's mobile. That I don't know. There's a lot of question marks around Justin Fields on how good he is. I didn't think he got a fair shot in Chicago. But this line, they're not going to be able to block anyone. It's a real concern, is it not?
The biggest problem is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, whoever's at the helm. Obviously, it'll be Russell Wilson unless he gets injured. Both of them like to hold on to the ball. And we have this makeshift rookie-filled veterans that shouldn't even be starting offensive makeshift line. And I just feel like, and I predicted it last week, did I not, Ryan, that we will give up the most sacks this season out of any NFL team.
And if that does happen, in fact, Russell Wilson, it's only X amount. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but he is going to pass Tom Brady this season for being the most sacked quarterback of all time. So
I have to ask, because my question was going to be about gambling. The over-under 8, that is so low for a Mike Tomlin team that he's never had a losing record. How do you take the under? But at the same time, how do you think they didn't bring a receiver at all? Trade was just fantasy nonsense, I guess, for a month, 2 months, 3 months, the entire preseason and offseason, and then they go and they pay Cam Hayward. They were going to give to Ayuk. I mean, I guess he earned it, but it's just like, what are we doing here?
Well, here's my situation. The Steelers are closer to a 6-11 team than they are to being a playoff team that can win a game. And here's my problem. Najee Harris was not given his 5th-year option at like $5 million. It was cheap as heck. And we somehow give Cam Hayward, a 36-year-old defensive lineman, a 2-year extension for what was it, like $14-15 million next year and the year after?
He should have given a Social Security check.
Exactly. He's in his twilight years. I mean, come on.
Well, if you follow politics at all, you'll know that there's no money left in Social Security, so that check's just going to bounce.
That's why he was so adamant about the extension. Hey, guys, I got to go. You convinced me to take the under. We'll revisit this later in the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go.
All right, anonymous gambler.
Anonymous gambler.
He sounds familiar.
Well, if you're a gambler, Brian, everybody sounds familiar.
Yeah, but I don't gamble.
Okay.
I bet somebody that TJ Watt would get less sacks than Alex Highsmith this season. Mm-hmm. And my theory was that Alex Highsmith would stay healthy and TJ Watt wouldn't. That was my whole theory behind it. And he's like, what do you want to bet? And I was like, $1.
Hey.
Like they did. Did you ever watch the Trading Places movie back in the 80s?
Yeah, of course.
With Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, where they switch places, and the two super rich Wall Street tycoons, their big bet on ruining somebody's life and making somebody's life better, ruining two people's lives in one way or another, was $1.
Right.
So that's why I like to bet $1.
Brian, I mean, you've been watching football a long time, just as I have, and one thing that you notice,
soccer or American football.
One thing that you notice is once a team gets an injury bug, it's very hard to rebound back from that. And getting it on the offensive line where it's pretty much our Achilles heel. It's a very unfortunate situation, and it makes you think to yourself, is Russell Wilson going to be able to do much more than Kenny Pickett did? Because when I seen Russell Wilson play in the preseason, with the exception of that one drive in the last preseason game, I seen more Kenny Pickett. I seen more going to the check down, going to the check down. It scares me because, again, if this is we're going to have the same kind of offense in the offensive line issues, in minus a receiver, you might want to say. Again, it doesn't have a good feel.
So you're saying we basically have the same offensives last year, subbing Russell Wilson over Kenny Pickett. Maybe we have a worse offensive line because of injuries, and we have our number one receiver from last year taken off of the field.
Yeah.
Like, how do you be positive about that? Is that what you're... I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
And the fact that, some of these issues are injury issues, and as I said, once you get these issues early, it's hard to see it. You rarely see a team bounce back and get healthy, and everybody stay healthy. When a team starts running into injury issues, it seems to be contagious, and that's another thing that I'm worried about.
We'll get into the schedule later, but the Steelers do not have a bye week until week 9.
Yeah.
So they will be something with 8 wins, losses added up total before then, and that's half the season almost. And we're getting off. You don't even play in the preseason, our guys are getting hurt.
Yeah.
What happens when you got there and actually play a full 4 quarters?
That's a concern of mine with somebody
and some of the guys we drafted are injury prone as well, and they're not hurt as of yet.
And, again, Cam Hayward isn't any younger this year. He dealt with an injury that kept him out, I think, good 6 weeks last year. He's not any younger. So, these are, again, issues that we might be dealing with. Brian, it's, again, I was very, very optimistic about a month ago. I really was. Let's get these new pieces moving. Let's see where we're at and run with it. But the closer we get, the scarier it's getting.
I remember you and Mike on the Two Dumb Yinzers on YouTube. You guys were picking your wins for the Steelers for the season. This was like months ago.
Yeah.
Maybe after we got Russell Wilson and all that and Patrick Queen. And in my head, I kept saying, and I wanted to type it on the board, we don't even know who our receivers are yet. How can you pick wins and losses at this point?
Right.
And here we are going into week 1. None of the answers that we asked, or none of the questions that we asked in the offseason have been answered at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Or defensive back. We haven't even got to that yet.
I'm surprised, and here's why I'm surprised. Again, I hope it's not Omar Khan pulling over one on us, but this is a very surprising situation. He has been on top of filling positions. If you take one out, you put one back. Very, very Omar Khan like. Thus far. That we're in this situation heading into meaningful games, having a total, that number 2 wide receiver spot is empty in my opinion. You put Van Jefferson in, but you got to hope to really get good results from him. Otherwise, you have one wide receiver that becomes easy to defend, and you don't even know if you're going to be able to run the ball, Brian. So again, it could be a lot of problems.
Well, the Steelers have to hope to keep this game low scoring. The problem is they're playing against Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Who likes to move the ball and put up points.
That's unfortunate.
So I don't know. I don't see. It's so sad that I just don't see the Steelers winning week 1.
On the road. I mean, as you said at the top, these guys are going to be fired up down there. You're home. They love their Falcons in Atlanta. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in town. What else do you need if you're a fan down there to get excitable and get loud when, especially inside, when we have the ball and you want to,
They have to have a lot of optimism down in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
They dealt with, what was it, Ritter?
Yeah.
I think he moved on to, was he back up down at the Arizona Cardinals now, I believe?
Yeah, he moved somewhere.
He was so bad. I mean, it was like he was their version of Kenny Pickett, I guess, even though Kenny Pickett did have a winning record up here somehow amazingly. But he was so bad, and now you bring in this, Kirk Cousins, just his regular season numbers are second to none, basically, outside of the top, couple guys.
Yeah, and realistically, Brian, I can see this week going by. We could be watching the highlights on ESPN and see Kirk Cousins puts up 350 yards. I think that is certainly a doable thing. But on the other hand, what's the most yards that you could expect to look and see Russell next to Russell Wilson's name, Brian? I have a hard time putting that number over 200.
I think we're going to need maybe a couple interceptions or turnovers.
It's got to be ugly.
And basically keep them under 20.
Yeah.
But is that the recipe for the whole season until we get gelling at least?
Yes.
The first 4 to 6 weeks, keep the other team under 20 as many times as possible and try to win ugly games.
Yes, that's been the Steeler way the past couple of years. And you mentioned it. I mean, Kenny Pickett did have a winning percentage. How did those Steeler teams win? It was never pretty. It was never pretty the past 2 years under Kenny Pickett. It was always down to the wire. You talk to any Steeler fan in Western Pennsylvania, they're going to tell you about the heart attacks and everything that you had to deal with going with the Steeler team, rooting for them. But that's the feel I get. There's nothing that I've seen so far that indicates otherwise, Brian. That's what worries me.
How many games would you say over the past 5 seasons, how many games that the Steelers have won where the last 5-6 minutes of the game you knew they were going to win?
What I'm going to say, it's going to kind of, it's almost going to sound like I'm being silly, but Kenny Pickett was that kind of guy. He was fiery. I expected him to bring this team back, especially after you've seen him do it early on in his career, the first season. So I kind of started to expect it when Kenny was in there. I was like, you know what? We're down, 6 points with 10 minutes left in the game. I could see Kenny making a drive and getting us back in it, which that was the case a lot of times, and that is how he won a lot of his games. But Brian, I just don't know anymore.
Yeah, hate to be negative Nancy, although I love to be negative Nancy.
Yeah.
I just don't think the Steelers have enough to be anything more than a mediocre team. Now, whether that, because anything can happen in football. Sometimes it's a game of inches. Sometimes you could go 6-11 or 11-6 with the exact same team.
Absolutely.
I mean, with a field goal here, a block there, a bad call by the referee or a good call by the referee here or there, that could really change 5 games over the course of the season. The Steelers will need luck this season. We're going to get into some more here when we come back. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Want the ultimate cigar experience? Fat Boy Cigars Premium Tobacco Shop and Smoking Lounge is located off of 376 in Center Township. Fat Boys Cigars offers all your cigar needs with an assortment of some of the finest cigars, including small batch boutique cigars and over 21 aromatic pipe tobacco blends and accessories. Stop and see their luxurious lounge accommodations. Book them for your next event. Visit their social media page for a list of event dates and times. Welcome to the Fat Boys world, Beaver County.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in fun community activities, personal care, meal prep, and light household work are all services provided by Patriot Home Care, all thanks to the hardworking and selfless team members. Call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or stop in Patriot Home Care, 1225 7th Avenue, Beaver Falls.
I'm Daniel Frank, and I'm a Beaver Bobcat. That's because we are training for a long and a very profitable postseason once high school is over at the Beaver County and Technology Center.
If you're an employer, what do you look for in a prospective new hire? A proven track record is usually the number one trait. For 46 years now, the Beaver County Career and Technology Center has been creating the workforce that has shaped Western Pennsylvania industry and service sector enterprises. It's the program with proven experience that employers know they can count on when they need to fill their workforce. Enroll your child or grandchild at the known quantity among educators and business leaders alike for 4 decades. The Beaver County Career and Technology Center. Signing up through your local public school is easy and can give your student the ability, in many cases, to make more money in certain fields than college graduates. Free career training at Beaver County Career and Technology Center is the perfect choice. Visit bcctc.org.
When accidents and injuries happen, you need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. Since 1934, they've been committed to the physical and financial recovery of personal injury victims. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, a law firm of AV-rated attorneys and super lawyers. Attorney Larry Kelly.
That we establish relationships with our clients, because I still believe that relationships still matter. That this isn't strictly business between me and the client, that there's a relationship that develops. And there's nothing more important, I think, in any attorney-client situation than the client believing that the attorney actually cares about them personally.
For your initial consultation, call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. You can check him out alongside co-host Mike Mueller every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube. Search Two Dumb Yinzers, that's D-U-M, Two Dumb Yinzers. They talk Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, and much, much more. Also, check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. If you'd like to chime in today, please give us a call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Ryan, we are going to be on for 2 hours every Wednesday from 4 to 6 throughout football season.
Can you believe it? Somebody allows this, Brian. Here we are.
I mean, I have no idea what Frank is thinking, but I must have drugged him. I don't know. I have an alibi, Frank. Sorry about that for you allowing this to happen. But we get to talk for 2 hours, which means we don't just get to bring you the highlights. We can dig in deeper of the upcoming game, the previous game, whatever's going on. And at 5:15, we will have Dan the Man Neely on to give the matchup versus the Falcons. He'll talk about the X's and O's, maybe a little bit of gambling on what wide receiver is going to go over, under, running backs, this, that, the other thing. He'll give you all that, maybe some fantasy stuff. So next hour, we'll be getting into that around 5:15. But for now, we have been talking Week 1 NFL.
Brian, we are
Week 1 NFL.
A little over a day away. A little over a day away. The NFL season, meaningful games. It's here.
Yeah, the Kansas City Swifties take on the Baltimore Ravens. And then for some unknown reason, the Green Bay Packers are playing at the Philadelphia Eagles, but in Brazil on Friday night. Here's what I'm looking forward to in this game, Ryan.
Yeah.
I want to see some Brazilian girls in the stands cheering for, they have no idea what's going on, but they might be on TV.
I mean, you tell the Brazilians that there's going to be a big football game. They all go running down. They have that weird buzzing sound going that when you're watching soccer.
Yes.
And
they're doing their chants. The whole stand's going crazy. And then all of a sudden, somebody
see a guy
throws it.
Yeah. Somebody's touching with their hands. It's exciting. It's always exciting to play overseas and out of our country, of course. One thing that I wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't want to be out of the United States of America these days. There's a lot of craziness going on around the world, so bless them guys. Hope they have a safe trip down there. I'm ready for some meaningful football. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, we're going to talk football here. Just bear with me for about 10 seconds. Under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, we have been granted the right of freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and freedom to petition our government, our grievances.
Yes.
Brazil has just outlawed what X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yes.
So you don't have freedom of speech in Brazil. These are things we need to keep here in the United States. If somebody says something that I absolutely hate and dislike, that's their right to say it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. The NFL players are going to Brazil, and I don't know if they have to behave or if they can go out to some Brazilian party after the game. I don't know.
Oh, I believe that the NFL is really big on this. I can even think to a time when the Steelers played in Mexico back probably in the late 90s. Brian, you could probably remember this as well. When they went down to Mexico, our neighbor right on the border, there was a lot of specific do's and don'ts. And, I can specifically remember, don't take anything of value with you. Don't take any. So, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry telling you, hey, you're going to this city, don't take anything of value. I'm pretty sure they're on these guys.
Here's my problem, though. The NFL guys, and no offense to anyone in particular that hasn't been in trouble, but they like to get in trouble, don't they?
Some do. Yeah. I mean,
a lot of them get in trouble here in the United States, where you have a lot more freedom than you do in places like Brazil. Will anybody get in trouble? What's the over-under? 0.5 guys getting in trouble from either team in Brazil after the game.
Just like any other demographic, just like any other number, of course, there are people that are going to get into trouble every now and then. To go down to a different country and have it happen, I'm not going to roll it out. Of course, it can happen.
So you're going with the over.
You know what? I'm going to go with this. I'm going to stay safe and go with the under.
How political of you.
It's that time of year, right?
Well, at 1:00. Our featured game here locally in Western Pennsylvania is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Hotlanta Falcons with their new quarterback, their great running game, their great offensive line. They're great against the defense. What can our defense do? We talked a lot about the offense last break. And you can bring up whatever point you just had. I just saw a thought in your head. But what can our defensive game plan be to stop their run? Because if we stop their run, Kirk Cousins could eat us alive.
Luckily, this is caters to one of our strengths. We have a strong linebacking core inside and out. providing maybe T.J. Watt kind of changes his game plan this year. You kind of seen him moving away from that strong run style over the past season or two, but we have a real strong linebacking core. We got Patrick Queen, we got a Landon Roberts in the middle. These two guys are hammers. Your two on the outside, of course, and then your backups, your Herbigs, your Peyton Wilsons. I think that, if you're trying to run, that certainly caters to the Steelers defense. Keanu Benton's looking really good. DeMarvin Leal is looking really good. I think that, as you said, if we can't stop the run, we're in big trouble. But I think that this does cater to us. So hopefully, again, this could be a part of what keeps this game low scoring and ugly.
Last year, the West Virginia Mountaineers, what'd they go? They went 9-4 last year. They were an okay team, and they probably didn't really play anybody that was that great. And two of their players from last year are starting on the Pittsburgh Steelers week 1 this year. On offense, obviously, you have Zach Frazier, and as your nickelback, you have Beanie Bishop starting against their slot receiver. Beanie Bishop wasn't even drafted, and we didn't even start our number 1 pick the last, I don't know how many seasons.
Yeah.
And now we're starting a guy that was undrafted.
And it kind of comes down to we have to. We don't have many moves to make here. And my second part of this, if I have to hear about this West Virginia thing for the next 4 years until your children get out of college, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But that is the case, Brian. Of course, Zach Frazier at center and Beanie Bishop. He's getting thrown in the same way that Zach Frazier is getting thrown into the Wolves. But unfortunately for Beanie, I think Zach's a little bit more pro ready. And that's kind of being polite. I just don't know how close Beanie Bishop is going to be for facing NFL caliber receivers.
Yeah, I've never been much of a West Virginia fan outside of like Pitt Snoggle back when he played basketball there. And then he was on the Pittsburgh professional team, whatever they were, the Pittsburgh layups or whatever they were called. But yeah, if you hear me talk a lot about West Virginia University, it's because my daughter's a freshman there. She actually went to the Penn State game there.
Oh, wow.
This weekend, sent me pictures, and I texted her before halftime, and I was like, "Oh, how's the game going?" She said, "We already left. It was too hot."
And
that's my kid.
They also dealt with rain and issues like this as well.
Yeah,
right?
there was like a multiple hours delay at halftime because of lightning.
Yeah.
Now, Aliquippa, did you do the Aliquippa
I did.
Bell Vernon game? I was down actually in Bell Vernon. I was going to go to the game, but it was up here at Heinz Field at Aliquippa.
Yes.
If it would have been down at Bell Vernon, I would have gone Friday night to the game and at least watched the half or something. But it was 14 or 13 nothing Aliquippa, and they called the game because that was that.
It kind of played out like around 7:40 something left in the first quarter. They did have that first lightning strike. They had sent the players to the locker room. You have to now the rule is you have to have a half hour after you've seen the last lightning strike.
Okay.
And that's what would happen. They waited, time went, they seen more, it kind of it lingered. So then when the guys finally came back out to play, they were able to put some points on the board. It was 12-0. Lightning struck again with 1:40 something left in the first quarter. So that's twice now in the first quarter. You're already 3 hours into this game. You've played less than a quarter.
Yeah, and it's not like a section game.
Right.
It was just division, what was it, AAA and Quad A state champions just playing each other.
That's the reason that it was the big game. People wanted to see what the Aliquippa versus Bell Vernon, the champions of 4A, the champions of 3A. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see that play out, Brian, but that's what happened. And it's, as I said, 12-0. Who knows how this game would have played out, but I think Aliquippa could have probably had a pretty good handle on these guys.
Well, everything just went out on my headset here. I've got to do some technical maintenance here at the break here. I can't hear anything in my headphones. So we're okay, though. I touched something with my foot under the wires under the table here, but we'll get through this.
I'll just yell really loud at you like this.
Hello, Ryan. So we were talking about the Steelers and what their defense needs to do to keep this game close and try to win ugly. Everything just came back on my headset. So there you go. Joey Porter Jr., I don't see him having a problem shutting everybody down. Dante Jackson, I think, is going to do well as well, just because I don't think they have that 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position like they do at running back. But what about Corey Trice Jr.? He's somebody I want to keep my eye on.
He falls in the category that Calvin Austin III falls in with me. He was his very first season. He got an injury. He was out that whole entire year. We waited to see Calvin Austin again. He came out last year, had some flashes. But this, it's just kind of the same case with Corey Trice. We don't know what we're getting. We know what we would like him to be. So we're going to get to have that first good look at him. And I'm going to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong. And this is going to rub some homers and people here in Western Pennsylvania the wrong way. But I have to see more of Joey Porter. I thought that what he did was really well. But I think we saw in small doses. I want to see a game where he's up against that number one guy. It's a showdown. I want to see him stop that number one guy opposed to just being successful against the number one guy.
Here's what I like about Joey Porter Jr. He's very handsy.
Yes.
He likes to push the limit every play and try to get away with a penalty every play.
Yeah.
And if he gets called once or twice a game, who cares?
Right.
Unless it's like the final play, which allows him to set up for the game-winning field goal. Who cares? If you can get away with it 90% of the time, do it.
Because if you're not the guy across from you, there's a good chance he is going to do it.
Right.
To get that advantage, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to get into a little bit of other sports, and whenever we come back, you guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be one practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah, and she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700.
Hi, this is Bob Barrickman here for Fry Transportation. When it comes to school buses in Beaver County, it sure is hard not to notice the shiny Fry Transportation fleet. Fry Transportation has been a local family-owned Beaver County business for over 30 years. As any successful football team must be dependable and reliable, these same qualities have made Fry Transportation a champion operation. Best wishes to all local teams and safe travels to the gridirons this season. From your friends at Fry Transportation.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. If you'd like to chime in today, please give us a call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. We've been talking Steelers.
Yeah.
Next hour, we have on our NFL, Bills, gambling, fantasy guru. He'll be breaking down the Falcons and Steelers. But I want to get into some different sports here before the top of the hour. Real quick, the Pittsburgh Pirates, yes, they are still in the majors. They have not been moved down to the minors as of yet. Paul Skeens yesterday. What did he go? 5 innings?
He did, yeah.
Scoreless. His ERA is 2.13. He has 9 wins, 2 losses. I think the 2 losses he has combined given up 3 runs.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's something ridiculous like that.
Certainly isn't because of him.
How in the world is this guy not the unanimous Rookie of the Year? He's right now, according to Vegas, he's second. Behind some guy batting 290.
I think, honestly,
if the guy was batting 350, I get it. But the guy's batting 290.
Yeah, I mean, the pitcher has numbers better than basically everybody in the league. Where the batter, he's doing very well, but there are certainly other batters that have averages similar to his.
So if he's let's say the 40th best batter in baseball right now,
right,
and Paul Skeens is the best pitcher,
how could he not be the Rookie of the Year?
I don't get it. It's been 19 starts, and I said the mark was 20. I think he could pitch 4 more games, I believe. 3 or 4 more games. If he goes over the 20 mark, and they don't give him outside of him, having terrible games the last few games or whatever. He has the mustache. He has the splinker. He has the 102-mile-an-hour fastball. He has the hot girlfriend. What is MLB doing not giving it to this guy?
You know what? I don't think that the MLB is quite as... What's the word I'm looking for? Because in the WNBA, I honestly believe that you should throw everything at Caitlin Clark because she's your moneymaker. I think what I'm trying to say is baseball, I believe they're smarter than that, where the WNBA, they kind of shied around, and I think baseball's smarter. I'm not a gambling man, but listen, I tell you this, if I was a gambling man, I would take my money and put it on Paul Skeens, because no matter what the Vegas lines say right now, I think when it's all said and done, Paul Skeens is the best option, right?
It's not even close to me. I don't get it. This other guy, I forget his name. I don't even know.
Yeah,
he's over there out in the West Coast. Whatever. We don't even watch it. Those games are on at like 10 something at night.
You're right.
I ain't nobody got time for that. All-Star he started the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like, he's the best you have. Why not promote him as the next best thing? If he doesn't turn out to be that, that's fine. But as of right now, he's doing everything.
Has there been anything that showed you otherwise to this point?
And I just don't get it. Paul Skeens is the Rookie of the Year. I just think it's just absolutely foolish. I got to look into it before next week. What the if he wins Rookie of the Year, how it benefits him and how it benefits the Pirates. Because that's one of the things about bringing players up early versus keeping them down. You know how the Oakland Athletics, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they keep the guys down and so they have the arbitration for as long as possible. So the Major League Baseball, to combat that, gave you incentives to bring up guys like Paul Skeens early, because if they do win something like Rookie of the Year, the organization gets a bonus somehow.
Right.
So Paul Skeens, 6'6", got the stash, got the girly, got the pitch.
One other thing that you forgot to mention was Paul Skeens wasn't active till a month into the season. So pitching 1 month less than a lot of the other starters, he still has. You know what I mean?
He still has everything. He's got to get over 10 wins. I think that's a must, even though, like, if he finishes 9-2 or 9-4 and pitches 21 games, I don't think that's enough. I think he's got to have over 10 wins and keep his ERA down in those low 2s. But, I mean, seriously, the Pittsburgh Pirates, here's one thing I brought up. The Pittsburgh Pirates, remember the 10-game losing streak that they had?
Oh, of course.
We all say that ruined their season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically speaking, as of right now, if the Pittsburgh Pirates were to have won 10 in a row during that time, they'd be 75-73 and still not a wild card team.
You'd still feel a lot better about your position being 75-73, though.
I get it, but still, if you flop that horrible part of the season to the greatest run that they've had, they're still on the outside looking in behind the Braves. And Mets.
And the thing is, we unfortunately, the same time when we were trying to, play better baseball, and we did run into that 10-game losing streak, your San Diego Padres were playing really good baseball. Your Arizona Diamondbacks were playing really good baseball, and that allowed the Pirates to be buried even deeper as they lost. We were like a game or a half a game behind both of those teams. Yes.
They went on these win streaks. We went on the 10-game losing streaks. But let's just say we went on a 10-game winning streak. We'd still be 3 or 4 games behind them.
Yeah.
That's how good the Diamondbacks and the Padres have been since the All-Star break. The Braves have come back to reality, and the Mets are still right there with them, so it's going to be between the Braves and the Mets. But real quick, the San Diego Padres, every time I watch them, because I think that they look like the Pirates, kind of like if they had pinstripes, if the Pirates had pinstripes. but they look like the nicotine Pirates. Why is their uniform nicotine color?
It is. It's nicotine
now,
brown.
No offense to all of you smokers out there.
not-
I was a smoker, previously in life, and I get it. But the end of your cigarette butt is the color of their uniform.
Yeah, it really is. You know what? The San Diego team, they're really good. You can't take nothing away from them, unfortunately.
Is that where that kid's from that
Yes.
is rookie? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. He's like an outfielder for the Padres.
Yeah.
The San Diego Nicotines. Ryan, we have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
The next hour of the show is going to be dedicated to the NFL. So if you're listening, stick around to the rest of the show because on the top of the hour, we're going to go over some Steelers stuff. We got Dan Neely coming in. We're going to be doing NFL, Steelers. I mean, it's week one of the NFL.
Baby.
This is like Christmas for everybody that knows that Santa's not real, right?
He's not. He's
earmuffs, kids.
Earmuffs. Hey, can I say one more thing before you
I should have bleeped that.
Yeah. What San Diego, I just want to make one comment about what San Diego and Arizona are doing. This is what you want your team to be doing if you have a Major League Baseball team. Right around this time of year to start getting hot right now. Look at your teams that were in first place the whole season. Atlanta, they kind of fell off. It's tough to keep a team good all season long.
The Guardians, a.k.a. the Indians.
Yes. I mean, so there are teams that do
162.
it. But again, you get teams that get hot right now. These teams are your San Diegos. These teams are your Arizonas. Look back historically. What was that? The Clint Hurdle's Colorado Rocky team winning 22 out of 24 to finish the season.
Do you know that was Clint Hurdle's only winning season until he got to the Pirates?
Yes, that's very true. But it was just, that's where you want to be at this point in the season. You're on that home stretch. You want to be playing your best baseball. And this is why a lot of times, Brian, those teams that go in with a 1 seed, a 2 seed, your better teams throughout the year, they don't win the World Series.
Right.
They gas out. You get into the playoffs.
The Diamondbacks beat the Phillies last year to go on.
Absolutely.
The Phillies beat whomever the year before that to go on it, and they were both the 6 seeds.
And these teams, you're right. These teams are the teams that are playing hot. The other teams are the teams that they are affected the most by playing those hot teams because, again, they stayed hot all season. So when you play that team that's really reeling in August, September, going into the playoffs, they face trouble, and that's why a lot of those teams, the Yankees, when was the last time that team won a World Series? They don't win them like they used to. It's hard to be good all year and go into the playoffs and continue that success.
Yes, pitching is so important in the playoffs. I mean, you got to have key hitting. Key hitting and pitching beats up the best batting lineup like the Yankees have had for the last 20-some years. Speaking of teams, though, Ryan, I know we got a couple minutes before we go into the break and before we get into Steelers heavy the next hour. The hottest team in sports currently is your Indiana Fever.
That's right.
Caitlin Clark's own Indiana Fever. Since August, points per game, 91.1. First in the WNBA. 3-point percentage, 40.7. First in the NBA. Offensive rating, 111. First in the WNBA. The Indiana Fever started the season out 1-8. 1-8. They are now up to 17-16, so that's 16-8. They are in 6th place. Clark's on fire. She's scoring almost 30 a night now, where she was scoring about 17 before. Lexi Hall, the 6'1" blonde beauty, is shooting like 70% from 3-point since the All-Star break. She's currently shooting 45% from 3 and she was a bench player.
Yeah.
She's now off the bench playing 30-some minutes a game. They only play 40. Kelsey Mitchell, she's been a staple there for years as a guard. She's been their leading scorer, so she's a great compliment to Clark. The Indiana Fever, that's the team that I would not want to play if I was a top 3 seed in the WNBA.
Almost kind of the same as going back to baseball. You don't want to face this team that's getting hot right now. And Brian, let's just say next year they go out and they get, in the draft and get themselves somebody else. This could be a pretty good women's basketball team moving forward for quite some time because you're starting to put all those pieces. You build around Caitlin. I really like what's going on over there, and they play tonight, so I will be watching.
They are fun to watch.
Yes.
I mean, I've been watching the WNBA all season, and Ryan, there's been anywhere from a dozen to 2 dozen plus layups that don't hit the rim.
Yeah.
So it's tough to watch the WNBA.
They got their problems. There's no two ways
And like
about
I always say, that movie Above the Rim, well, the WNBA plays below the net, okay? But the Indiana Fever moves the ball like the Golden State Warriors have for the past, 10 years. Yeah. They move the ball, they kick it around, they can shoot, they can go inside out. They got Boston down low. They are the second youngest team in the WNBA, and they are going to be a force to reckon with over the next 5-10 years.
And if you're not a WNBA fan and you're looking for a reason to maybe go check them out, you know what? Turning on any given night when the Indiana Fever's on, this team, as Bryan mentioned, is a lot of fun to watch. They really gelled. And as you said a lot early on in the season, Bryan, there's a lot of turnovers. Those numbers are going down. You're starting to see this team play good together. You're starting to see them iron things out. I wouldn't want to face this team in the playoffs for nothing.
Absolutely not. I know. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone, on the WNBA talk. We are going to go to break here. On the other side of the break, we are going to be getting into the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Atlanta Falcons, week 1 of the NFL season. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Getting into the lineup and making the team is easy at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Training camp is starting and you are invited. This is Coach Andy Dangle and I'm looking for new teammates. Membership is open to many organizations and groups throughout the county. Join my team at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Details and applications are available now. Visit Freedom United Federal Credit Union today. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Geneva College, your academic experience will prepare you with exceptional expertise in your chosen field. But what you'll learn is so much more than just that. Integrating faith and learning, you'll grow to see God's purpose and calling in your life's work. You'll be challenged to imagine how the world around you could be different and what your part might be in making that difference. You were made to live courageously. Visit geneva.edu today.
Getting into the lineup and making the team is easy at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Training camp is starting and you are invited. This is Coach Andy Dangle and I'm looking for new teammates. Membership is open to many organizations and groups throughout the county. Join my team at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Details and applications are available now. Visit Freedom United Federal Credit Union today. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Bob Barrickman here for Fry Transportation. When it comes to school buses in Beaver County, it sure is hard not to notice the shiny Fry Transportation fleet. Fry Transportation has been a local family-owned Beaver County business for over 30 years. As any successful football team must be dependable and reliable, these same qualities have made Fry Transportation a champion operation. Best wishes to all local teams and safe travels to the gridirons this season. From your friends at Fry Transportation.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in fun community activities, personal care, meal prep, and light household work are all services provided by Patriot Home Care, all thanks to the hardworking and selfless team members. Call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or stop in Patriot Home Care at 1225 7th Avenue,
The views
Beaver
and
Falls.
opinions expressed on WBVP and WNBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WNBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WNBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better starting quarterback than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better 1-2 punch at running back than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have a better tight end than the Steelers? What if I told you the Atlanta Falcons have one of the best run blocking offensive lines in the NFL? What if I told you the Steelers' strength going into week 1 is their run game? However, stopping the run is what the Falcons' defense does well. What if I told you the Steelers' last 8 games of the season have 6 divisional games and mixed in the Eagles, 2 years removed from the Super Bowl, and back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Swifties? What if I told you the Pittsburgh Steelers have question marks at almost every position? In a 17-week season, a lot can happen. But what if I told you week 1 and 2 on the road are the must-win games for the Steelers? What if I told you the wait is over and it's NFL football season this weekend? But we start the NFL season tomorrow night at 8:20, the Ravens at the Kansas City Swifties. Then Friday night at 8:15 in Brazil, it's the Packers versus the Eagles. However, the Steelers take on the Falcons this Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's NFL football, Ryan.
There's always something extra that comes with football. As you mentioned, the Swifties, I don't know if I'm even ready for this, the Taylor Swift thing that they did.
Did you see the commercial for the upcoming NFL season?
Oh, thank heavens, no. But
ask me how many times Joe Burrow is in the preview.
How many times is Joe Burrow in the preview?
4 less than Taylor Swift.
Wow.
0.0. No Joe Burrow promo.
0.0.
Taylor Swift, however, has made it onto the preview for the season.
You know what? That's good marketing because, again, whoever it is that they are using Taylor Swift to bring in, they may need the coaxing where, we, the football player, the football fans, we don't need the coaxing. We're ready for football season. Maybe that's what it's about. I just don't know if I'm ready for Taylor Swift. But where I was going with that, Brian, you recall back when we were growing up, the Atlanta Falcons, they had a little extra thing going on as well with MC Hammer and the Too Legit to Quit, and the Atlanta Falcons changed their colors to black and red instead of the old goofy dark orange colored helmets. And
they had orange helmets?
They did, yeah. The Atlanta Falcons, they originally had it was like a dark orange helmet, and you don't remember that whole change, that whole time period, huh?
I like the red. I like when they wear the red helmets as opposed to the black, but I don't. Maybe I'm thinking it's red, but it was dark orange. But no, yeah. I don't remember this. The 90s?
Yeah, I'd say 91.
The 1890s or 1990s? We got to get more specific here, right?
I could give you the most specific. It was when Deion Sanders first came to the Atlanta Falcons because...
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
With they had the gray, maybe the pants.
Yes.
And then they had the red helmets, but okay, so dark orange. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so no, that kind
not the Kansas City Chief red, but
right.
Like you said, okay, I'm on the same. Back when Deion Sanders was bigger than Barry Bonds.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, as a matter of fact, Deion Sanders ended up playing against Barry Bonds, if I'm remembering right.
There is a 30 for 30 on Deion Sanders, and during it is when he played down at Miami, and then he came back and he played against the Pirates in the playoffs, and down by the third base, in between shortstop and third base, Deion Sanders and Barry Bonds were stretching together, chit-chatting, and Deion Sanders, believe it or not, was bigger than Barry Bonds.
Wow. Well, I see Barry come back this past week for the Pirates Hall of Fame. He lost a lot of that size.
See, everybody keeps saying that, but if you look and everybody go back if you can find it, when they had Leland and Bonds in the booth, look at Barry Bonds' legs. His thighs are huge. Everybody kept saying how small he looked, but I'm like, look at those thighs.
When you're sitting next to a guy who's 105 years old as Jim Leland is, I mean, that's not hard to do.
40 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah, right.
All right, so this is week 1, the NFL season.
Yes.
That means one man's opinion on sports with me, Bryan Pasquale, is on from 4 to 6 every Wednesday. We'll be covering, being the middle of the week, I like it because we can kind of cover what happened last weekend. It's not going to be the Monday morning reactions that you get like, oh, fire Tomlin, oh, fire the quarterback. It's going to be a legit, I got to see the game 3 times. So I can break down what they did wrong, where they did it wrong, especially on the offensive and defensive line. And then we can also look into what's upcoming this following week.
Absolutely.
So you got 2 hours of us. Ryan and Bryan will have a guest on here at 5:15, Dan Neely. He will give us all the lowdown on the NFL.
And I don't know if you want to do it when Dan is on the line, or we're going to do it maybe in the last stretch of the show. But I certainly want to know what your how you're feeling about this first week. I need to know some winners when we come back next week, because I'm going to need a little reason to talk trash.
After we get off the phone with Dan, we're going to go over kind of like what I feel like the Steelers will do the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, all right.
What they'll do week 1, and kind of what I think they're going to do all season. So we'll get into that, the final segment of the show.
We were talking a lot about the back end of the schedule with the Steelers. Those last 8 games are going to be tough. It's a very important game. The NFL season starts tomorrow, and for the Steelers and Steeler fans alike, the Baltimore Ravens are playing the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a game that we would consider tough down the road. This game is huge for the Steelers tomorrow night. Again, game 1, week 1. But at the end of the day, you want them Ravens to lose. That's
and they're at the Swifties. They're down in Missouri,
right?
Down in Kansas City.
So from right out the gate, Brian, football it's fire right off the top here in Pittsburgh and around the league. The NFL didn't waste no time.
Now, did the NFL make sure that Taylor Swift didn't have a game or a show tomorrow so that they could show her 9,000 times? Because they're featuring Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, but they're really featuring Taylor Swift.
Right.
Are we going to just see it all night?
I'm sure.
Will Travis Kelce score twice? No holding on the Kansas City offensive line and Travis Kelce touchdowns.
I'm just glad we don't have to face the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. I can imagine it's going to be a circus.
I hope she breaks up with them by the time we have to play the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, that'd be the best thing ever.
Or what she breaks up the week before?
She'll break up with him and he'll come out and score 4 touchdowns instead of 2 because he'll be angry. That's
and then she'll have a double track album come out about about the breakup.
Right.
And then
it'll be such that there'll be a memorable part of a recognizable song, and every time that we hear it for the rest of our lives, we'll relate it to a time when we lost to Taylor Swift. So
all right, in about 5 or 7 minutes or so, we're going to have Dan Neely on. He's going to break down the Falcons versus the Steelers game. But before we ask him his thoughts, Ryan, what are your thoughts on the strengths of the Falcons and the weaknesses of the Falcons? And then I'm going to ask you the same question about the strengths of the Steelers and weaknesses of the Steelers.
I think that there's a lot about the Atlanta Falcons team that there is to be excited about. If you're a Falcons fan, they did a lot of work. The one negative thing I would say about this team, Bryan, Atlanta, is they came from a very, very weak conference, and I'm not even sure they won that division. Weak division, I'm sorry, not conference. And I'm not sure that they won the division last year. That's where I feel a little optimistic. Not that great of a team coming from not that great of a division, but when you add all the people in positions that they added to this team, the quarterback, I think.
Didn't they get rid of their head coach? Got rid of that bum, right?
They sure did.
Where did he end up? Is he like with Aliquippa, or where did he end up?
If you mustache, he is here in Pittsburgh. Of course, Arthur Smith, guys. We did get a lot of what they regurgitated to us, and that's again a kind of a concern for me. Why did they get rid of him? And why were we so excited to go get these guys? That's why. One other reason why I think that this game is good. It's going to be good, Bryan. We have to keep it ugly. We have to keep it ugly if we want to win.
So the Kansas City Swifties are going to keep it pretty with Taylor Swift up in the stands, as Mike likes to say. And the Steelers, in order to win, need to keep it ugly at least the first few weeks until they figure out new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. If he goes down, new backup quarterback. The running backs have stayed the same, but we elected not to give Harris the fifth-year option. Basically, a different offensive line. We're missing our number one wide receiver from last season. So it's probably, if you watch the West Virginia Penn State game this past weekend, the entire first quarter was turnovers and sloppiness. Is that what you're trying to hope for against the Falcons? Not that we turn the ball over, but a sloppy start until we can get gelling.
We just can't let them move the ball at their own will. We just can't let that happen because, again, say they go down and score a touchdown right off the top, then you're thinking, oh, geez, how are we going to come back? And then it can start to snowball into one of those games where, okay, this is a drive where you need something to happen, and Russell Wilson gets sacked, and then this happens, and then we got to punt it away. All right, if we hold them, we'll be good. They come down, maybe kick a field goal. You could just see how this could turn into a real bad game for the Steelers. They have to keep it ugly. They have to keep the ball bouncing, maybe, and hopefully have it come in their direction every once in a while. Again, until I see this team and until I see anything different, I still have a feeling that this team is somewhat similar to the team that we've been watching the past 2 seasons.
Now, here's something off the wall. This is week 1, and going into the off season, you're kind of like, well, you know, we found out the schedule. It's like, okay, we got the Falcons Raiders. We should be able to win those 2 games, get off to a good start because we do have that tough.
Falcons Broncos.
That's what I said. So, not the Raiders. So, at Denver, not at, what is it, Las Vegas now?
Yes.
First they were at LA. No, they were at Oakland, then they were at LA, then they were at Oakland, now they're Las Vegas. So hard to keep up.
They are our only October away game.
Yes. The Halloween game? We always seem to play them around Halloween, I feel like.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So the Broncos, I apologize. I think I said the Raiders last hour too as well. But so we have to get off to a good start with them. The Arthur Smith Falcons drama. Then you have the Russell Wilson Denver drama. Does that add a little motivation for the Steelers to go in there, or does it add motivation for the Falcons and the Broncos to PSA, you're not coming into our house.
Yes. Yes. That is. It holds true to everything. It's going to give the Falcons more of a motivation. It's going to give the Broncos more. I think it would give those teams more motivation than it would the Steelers because, again, we just got these new guys. We're hoping to go back and beat their former teams. But, again, you could see how it could certainly affect the former teams in more of a positive way because they want to beat these guys. Look what Russell Wilson did. He came here to Denver. He had this attitude, blah, 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 and they want to make what they say about him seem true. And
will week 2 there be a sign up that says we're paying you $39 million to not play for us or whatever it is, $29 million to not play for us? Will that be a sign?
I think the people out in the Mile High City are clever. I think there will certainly be signs and things like this that we'll see. It's going to be a lot of fun, Brian. I know that we're heading into the break here, but it's, as I said,
I'm excited, but I'm nervous.
Yes.
Excited and nervous. All right, well, we're going to have Dan Neely on when we come back from the other side of the break. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
I've heard people refer to older veteran athletes as being all washed up. Well, quite frankly, that's a rather nice compliment if you ask me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. When you hear something like that, you have to consider the source of the water, that is. After all, getting washed up with Beaver Falls Municipal Authority water can't be a bad thing. That's because for over 80 years, we've made it possible for everyone to feel washed up, even if they are not star athletes. Click bfwater.net.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be one practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
How can I help my child to make positive choices?
Start with a conversation. Start making the difference.
Beaver County Parents, is your child between the ages of 10 and 14? If so, Keystone Wellness Programs is offering the Strengthening Families program in your area. This free program is designed for families to have fun together while learning ways to promote family bonding and communications. For more information about upcoming sessions near you, visit KeystoneWellnessPrograms.org. Paid for with PA taxpayer dollars.
This is Andy Toole, men's basketball coach at Robert Morris University, here to talk about my friends at Falcone Moon Township Ford. I know what it takes to win a basketball game. It begins with practice and a team of players who want to win. The same is true of the team at Moon Township Ford. Professionals who will win you over. They'll find the best rate and terms on a car loan to help you get the best deal. Make a fast break and avoid the roadblocks that stop you from finding the car you want. Go where I go. Moon Township Ford.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. You can check him out alongside co-host Mike Mueller every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube. Search Two Dumb Yinzers. That's D-U-M. Two Dumb Yinzers. They talk Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, and much, much more. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. Right now, we have our Bills insider, NFL expert, our fantasy and gambling guru, the Dancing Destroyer, the King of Sting, the Count of Monte Fisco, the Prince of Punch, the Master of Disaster, the one, the only, Dan, the Man, Neely. Woo! Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you. Do you write that all down, or you just remember that?
I plead the fifth. Anything I say can and will be used against me in the sports media. Welcome to the show, Dan. Real quick, you're down in Florida, down in the Orlando suburbs, I assume. What's the weather like down there?
Well, we're getting our 15-minute rainstorm of the day here right now, and this time of year it rains every day for 15 minutes. But other than that, it's humid and hot. I think I'm adjusting because I was on a walkthrough today at work, and I mentioned to the guy that I was really enjoying the cooler weather, and he kind of looked at me like I was crazy. So I was thinking, you know what? I think I might be getting used to this down here finally.
Nice. Now, Dan, you have a YouTube channel. Why don't you tell everybody about that real quick, and then we'll get into some NFL stuff.
I appreciate it. I'm just getting a YouTube channel off the ground. It's called NFL DFS Picks. If you search NFL DFS Picks, no spaces, you should come up to it. This week I'll be releasing 4 videos here in the next day, and we're going to talk about some DFS picks and some betting picks. So if you guys want some help with making some bets this week, I've got a ton of research in this off season. I've spent about 40 hours already just looking at DFS and betting for week 1, and I have about 300 fantasy drafts in this year already. So safe to say I'm really plugged into the league. I've really paid attention to everything that's gone on throughout the off season with every team, and I've had to roll with a lot of changes in the fantasy drafts. You know, I've already drafted a bunch of guys that aren't even playing this season. If once you start drafting in July, that happens.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows who Mel Kiper is. He is, if you want to know what's going on in the upcoming NFL draft, Mel Kiper is your go-to guy. Dan Neely is your fantasy and betting guru. So go check out his YouTube page and check him out if you want to make some money or win your fantasy draft. So check out Dan Neely down at YouTube there.
And one thing that I do know about Dan, from him being on the other times, he is on top of every game. He said that there's a lot of weeks he goes and he sees every single game through the course of the week.
His favorite team's the Buffalo Bills, which we won't hold that against you too much, Dan. You've suffered enough, especially those 4 Super Bowls in a row. But he knows everything about every team.
That's great.
So we brought Dan on to give a non-Western Pennsylvania, non-Pittsburgh perspective of the matchup week 1. We have the Steelers and the Falcons. I asked Ryan last hour, Dan, what do you think the strengths of the Falcons and the weaknesses of the Falcons are?
Well, easily their strength is their offensive line. They have week in and week out, in my fantasy research, every single week, they have the biggest mismatch on the offensive line in a positive way. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the week is. When it comes to run blocking, the Falcons have the best run blocking offensive line in the league by a mile. The Colts are right up there with them. If you think the Colts have a good line, the Falcons have a better line than the Colts. That being said, Pittsburgh, their pass rush is one of the only teams in the league that has got the Falcons on a negative grade this week. I haven't seen that happen in a really long time, so they're really doling out a lot of respect for Watt. Now, Falcons' biggest weakness, I mean, looking at the matchups here, it's safe to say that they don't have a guy that can lock down George Pickens. And I think that's kind of the glimmer of hope for Pittsburgh here in this game, in my opinion. If Pittsburgh wins this game, it's going to be because of George Pickens and because of George Pickens only on offense. And I do think that this is a perfect game for betting the under. This game, to me, looking at the matchups and the scores, I got them all right in front of me. I mean, Russell Wilson, his offensive line is atrocious. Pittsburgh's left tackle, Pro Football Focus grades as a 54.
He's our only veteran that has started the last few years and played every game. And like you said, Pro Football Focus has him rated as one of the worst linemen on the planet.
Worst. Yeah, and the right tackle, he looks so bad versus Buffalo in the preseason. His grade's a 57.
As big as that guy is, the way that he got ran over against Buffalo, it was embarrassing. The guy ran through him.
And Greg Rousseau is not known to do that, so that's not that's not a TJ Watt.
It wasn't Bruce Smith out there,
right?
He's like an 85 or something. If you were to rate him, he's good, but he's not a player that should do that to people. And the rest of Pittsburgh's offensive line, Daniels, they graded a 61. Frazier, of course, is a question mark. We're hoping for the best, and I don't know. I don't think that he's got a great matchup this week. I mean, Pittsburgh's run blocking grade matchup is negative 22%, according to Pro Football Focus's offensive line, defensive line matchup chart, and the pass blocking is minus 15. And in comparison, Atlanta's is a positive 30 with Bijan Robinson, maybe the most talented running back in the NFL. Running behind a positive 30 grade is outstanding matchup for them. Kyle Pitts has a plus 14% in this match. And
do you know if he's going to play? I hate to interrupt you, Dan.
I was looking into that today. I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Okay.
I think what happened is the coach said that he tweaked his hamstring a little bit about 3 weeks ago, and he's just been taking it easy here for a little while, and they're just going to continue to let him take it easy a little bit. But he's not concerned. He said he doesn't think it'll affect his availability. So sure, there's a re-injure. There's a chance of re-injury that I don't think you're going to worry about it. I think that, probably got a 20% chance of not finishing the game, but he's the only tight end in the league that runs a 4.3 40.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about Pittsburgh pass defense now. I mean, Queen's a big improvement, but I'm just thinking back to how bad Pittsburgh struggled against the Bills in the playoffs, covering their tight ends. I think Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox might have each had a touchdown against them in that game. If I can't remember.
Yeah, historically the Steelers have struggled against tight ends. Even if they're like stars or not, they usually just dominate the Steelers for whatever reason. I don't know if it's scheme or whatever. Back in 2021, Kyle Pitts had 68 receptions for over 1,000 yards. So I don't know. I saw him injured, and I was like, well, hopefully he doesn't play.
Yeah, so Pitts... Pitts got hurt, and he kind of had a year last year just to get his leg back under him. And he's either going to bust or boom this year. I think it's either he's going to be another, perennial 1,000-yard tight end, or he's going to have 500 yards and not really make a lot of money from here on out. We're not really sure which direction he's going, but I wouldn't count him out yet, And I think Freiermuth would have been a lot better if, Fields would have won the job. Let's be real. I mean, Russell Wilson just doesn't utilize the tight end very well at all, and he doesn't throw to the middle of the field very well at all. And I just don't think that Freiermuth is going to be the factor I was hoping he would be. I was thinking if Fields was the quarterback, Freiermuth maybe be a borderline top 12 tight end for fantasy purposes, and I'd probably play him a lot, and I'd probably want to stream him in DFS, and I look for these matchups where he had a positive grade. And this week he has just a break-even grade. He's a 0. The Vegas is only projecting him for 25 yards receiving. That is crazy, isn't it? Don't you guys think that's low?
Well, the problem is that I believe they want to give him a 3-year extension for roughly $10 to $12 million. And if you're saying he's going to go out there and, let's say, make 2 catches for 25 yards, or 3 catches for 25 yards, why even have that guy?
I say he's a waste of money right now if Russell Wilson's the more than 1 year option plan there. I mean, you're probably better off just playing your 3rd round big blocking tight end next year once Freiermuth maybe leaves, and I just don't see him giving you what I was hoping he could do with Fields. I mean, look what Fields has done with Cole Kmet, I mean, Kmet was, I think, tight end 7 last year. He was a really underrated guy. And Kmet and Freiermuth are very similar players. Almost exactly the same height, weight, speed, hands.
Hey, Dan.
Those guys are very similar.
Before we go to break, Dan, what I saw in the preseason when Russell Wilson was running the offense, it looked a lot to me like a Kenny Pickett offense. A lot of checkdowns, just not throwing the ball down the field, not going down the middle of the field. He took a couple shots here and there, but did it seem awfully similar to you? That's the point. That's the thing that's scaring me. We were wanting somebody that was an upgrade from Kenny Pickett and company. And again, what I saw in the preseason and the little bit last year with Denver, it doesn't look much different than what Kenny was doing if we do have Russell Wilson back there.
Honestly, I feel like I could write down exactly what's going to happen every single time the Steelers touch
exactly
the ball with Russell Wilson and quarterback. They're going to hand off and get 2 yards. Then Russell Wilson's either going to get sacked or checked down, and they're going to be about 2-3 yards short of the sticks. And then on the next play,
throw a 5-yard pass if you need 7.
Happen. And 2 out of every 3 plays, he has a really high percentage of getting sacked once.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm getting to.
He has a really high percentage of just checking it down to a flat. He throws a ton of balls into the flats. He takes almost no chances whatsoever. A lot of his touchdowns last year were throwaways, and he threw it in Courtland Sutton's direction, and Sutton made an absolutely unbelievable catch that only the wide receiver could have made, or that ball was going out of bounds. He had one against Buffalo where when he threw that, I said, there's absolutely no way Russell Wilson intended that pass to be.
Right. I've seen these plays, and we're going to be expecting guys like Scotty Miller and Van Jefferson to make the same kind of plays that Sutton was making in Denver. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening.
It's going to be a one-trick show. It's going to be George Pickens or bust, and if Pickens gets hurt, they're going to have the worst receiving core in NFL history.
Right.
Well, Dan, on that note, we do have to go to break. We're going to get into more NFL when we come back with Dan Neely. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
Oh my goodness, Amy, it's so good to see you.
Jennifer, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Is your mom doing any better?
Thank you for asking. I don't know if I can answer without being emotional. I'm sorry. I'm just tired and worried. I can't always be there for her, and it's so stressful.
I really understand. That's how I was with my dad. I'd recommend calling St. Barnabas. We did. We started with just having them come in for home care. He was so excited to see them show up. And when he needed more, we were able to move him in at Beaver Meadows, where he still has his own home-like space and excellent care.
Thanks for telling me that. I don't even know how to start, but I have to do something.
Oh, you can just give St. Barnabas a call. They have directors that can explain how it all works. Trust me, you'll feel so much better, and so will your mom.
I'm so glad I ran into you.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700 for care apart from the ordinary.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be one practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
You know, I've heard people refer to older veteran athletes as being all washed up. Well, quite frankly, that's a rather nice compliment if you ask me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. When you hear something like that, you have to consider the source of the water, that is. After all, getting washed up with Beaver Falls Municipal Authority water can't be a bad thing. That's because for over 80 years, we've made it possible for everyone to feel washed up, even if they are not star athletes. Click bfwater.net.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. If you'd like to chime in, maybe you got a question for Dan about fantasy or some betting, give us a call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. We do have Dan the Man Neely on the phone. We've been talking about the Steelers and Falcons matchup week 1. We're going to continue talking about that for just a minute, but I do, Dan, if it's okay with you, I'd like to go around the NFL too after that.
Sure. Anything you guys want to do.
Dan says he has 4 hours of material.
Nice. Good.
All right, so
I got about 16 pages of notes.
Hey, that's awesome.
We're going to get through maybe a half of one of those. So basically, what everybody wants to know here is we don't care about the matchup. The Steelers are our favorite team. They've got TJ Watt. They can never lose. They're going to win it all, the Super Bowl, you name it. We've got everybody. But as a realist, how do the Steelers pull this win off?
Don't everybody jump out at one time and answer it.
I stumped them.
So it's going to be George Pickens, and it's going to be defense, right? So I would say, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would probably take the under, and that favors Pittsburgh because Kirk Cousins is a lot better than Wilson. Bijan Robinson's a lot better than Najee. Drake London and Pickens are very similar players. Kyle Pitts has got a much better matchup. The offensive line for Atlanta's, if you just add up Pro Football Focus's grades and just come up with a number for each team, Atlanta's about 135 points more on their 5 linemen.
Jeez.
Just in their player grades. So they're not just a little bit better on the line. They're absolutely the best offensive line the Steelers are going to face this whole season.
So you're saying a couple turnovers and some defense and Pickens having a heck of a game is their only hope?
They're going to need a phenomenal defensive performance, and I wouldn't put it past this defense to do that.
A percentage of 1 to 100%. 100% being, guaranteed victory, 0 being no chance at all. Where does the Steelers, in your opinion, Dan, fall in this first game of the season? What percentage chance does this Steeler team have in winning this opener?
Well, you're really putting me on the spot, huh?
Hey, but you know what? Asking the guy with 16 pages of notes is the guy that I want to ask the questions.
I feel like Ryan's trying to get everybody in Western PA to not like you, Dan.
Right. You know what, guys? I'm just to be completely honest.
Yes.
I usually try my very best to just lean Steelers for the radio here in Pittsburgh, and if it's close, I just want to give you guys a little more hope sometimes than usual, but I would say, being in Atlanta, having Arthur Smith coming back into town. Look, I look at this like this.
He's trying to put this nicely.
For Atlanta, right? This is the Arthur Smith revenge game for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to feed Bijan about 25 touches, which Arthur Smith refused to do for some reason. And they're going to feed Kyle Pitts, which he refused to do for some reason. I mean, who has the better advantage with Smith leaving? Is it Smith knowing their defensive personnel? That might be the better advantage, right? But what's he going to attack with it? That's my thought, right? So even if Smith knows that defense like the back of his hand, he doesn't have Bijan Robinson. He doesn't have Kyle Pitts anymore. He doesn't have Kirk Cousins even. He has got a guy that's closer to Desmond Ridder at quarterback than Kirk Cousins at this stage in their careers. I really think it's 15%.
Wow.
Now, do the Falcons, are they just matched up better against the Steelers, or do you think the Falcons are going to be a team to reckon with this season in the NFC?
It's a tough call because they're
assuming Cousins is healthy the whole season.
The football's won in the trenches, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Desmond Ridder was losing games for them. Let's be real. Like, the guy, they were in a similar situation as Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh just has they just had a better coaching staff, more consistency. They had a better defense. But offensively, last year, you know, Desmond Ridder and Pickett were kind of similar guys in a lot of ways. You know, they were, let me put it this way, neither one of them have a chance of being the starter ever again in the NFL. Right? Unless it's like, you know, an emergency, right?
All right, Dan. We've got like 5 minutes left. I know you got 85 pages of notes. You've depressed the entire listening audience on the Steelers' chance to win here. But I feel the same way as you, Dan. I do. What about, real quick, if you can get into the game tomorrow night and then whatever you want to talk about for the rest of this week 1 season, whether it's the Bills or just some other games that you like, maybe some matchups you like or whatnot. So go ahead and give us the breakdown.
I'm going to join you on Sunday morning. So how about let's talk about Thursday and Friday's games, right? Those are the two things that are going to happen between now and then, right?
Okay.
So let's talk about tomorrow's game. I mean, how excited could we be about that, right? Like Baltimore and Kansas City. The NFL is doing such a good job of opening the season, right? They're just killing it with these season opening games. And this is like as good as it gets, right? The MVP versus the Super Bowl winners, right?
I have a gambling question before you get into the X's and O's. Is there a prop bet on how many times they'll show Swiftie?
You know, I haven't checked that. I made a post today on X on my NFL DFS picks X page, and it was like, has anybody thought about what the NFL has actually done for Taylor Swift? I mean, she is a bigger marketing tool than the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Like, you don't see his face on TV.
Oh,
right?
He's got an ugly face.
Oh, he's hideous.
But
his head looks like a hornet's nest.
I love Kansas City in this game. Kelsey has got an absolute fantastic matchup against Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore losing Queen is going to be really big for them. That being said, really realistically, looking at this matchup, the Baltimore really doesn't have a single great matchup. Like, they're kind of below average or average in every single field of analytics versus this team. And I truly think that if you're gonna bet this game, you should take Kansas City with the points. It's at 2.5. I just feel like 2.5 is
at home
a good number, right?
They're only favored by 2.5.
They're only a 2.5 point favorite at home, right? And if you can get that 2.5 instead of the 3,
that's huge.
It's as good as the money line, right? Like, I look at the money line and 2.5 as being darn near the same thing. You might as well take the better pay,
right?
Because there's a much better chance the game's tied and a field goal wins it than the team was down 1 and a field goal wins it, if you look at the history of the NFL. And that being said, I love Mahomes in that game. If you want to do a player prop bet, like a parlay, I'd take Kansas City to win, and I would take Kelsey over 57.5 yards. I feel like that's a lock. And I would take Rashee Rice for over 59.5. I mean, those 3 things have got to be about as sure a bet as you could imagine. If Mahomes throws for 200 yards, 175 of them are going to be to Kelsey and Rice, I think. Hollywood Brown's going to miss the game. I just think that those guys do a really good job for them. I like Kansas City to win that game. And then Friday, Green Bay plays Philly.
Do you know what uniforms they're going to wear? Because I heard they're not allowed to wear green.
I did hear that. Yeah, that's silly. We'll see what happens.
I think it's silly too, obviously.
Brazil is. Why are we in Brazil? This is for another call, but why are we in Brazil?
Yeah, we could do a 2-hour show on that.
Out of all the countries in the world to go play a football game in, we're going to go to one of the most censored, one of the most awful countries right now to live in. It's ridiculous, but that's for another day.
Right. Back to the matchup.
I love Philadelphia -2. I love the over in this game. I feel like this is just going to be a game where these two teams are going to walk down the field over and over and over again. Philadelphia couldn't stop anybody last year, and the Packers didn't win because of their defense at all last year. You know, they kind of snuck into the playoffs just by outscoring everybody.
Right. They had another gunslinger. That's their third in a row.
You know, I mean, they're so lucky, right? They do it right, apparently. I think they got a great way they do things, and it's worked. You know, even Favre was not a spring chicken when he came there. You know, he was drafted by the Falcons. But looking at this game, A.J. Brown has got one of the best matchups in the NFL this week. His player prop projection is 71.5. He had 100 yards in, I think, like 10 games in a row to start the year last year or something close to that. So, I mean, he's a lock for this 71.5. I think it's an absolute smash bet. If you wanted to do a parlay on the Eagles game, I would recommend the over, 49.5, Philly -2. I'd give up those points in a heartbeat. I'm not worried about the -2. I think that A.J. Brown is definitely going to have 71.5 yards for sure. I would lean towards Devontae Smith having 60.5. Kellen Moore runs a really fast-paced passing offense, and he uses a ton of slot motion to get the slot open, and I heard Devontae Smith is running that slot motion for them, so I would expect him to easily get 60 yards. And really, Hurts only throws to 3 guys. He throws to Brown, Smith, and Goddard, and they've tried a whole bunch of times to bring someone else in, but he just doesn't throw to him. And the coaches even said, this is what we do. We throw to 3 guys. And they're going to continue to do that. And these props are too low. You combine Brown and Smith, it's 132 yards, right? Well, Jalen Hurts' prop is 237. So, you know, just common sense says that these props are too low, knowing what you know about this offense, right? I mean, it just makes easy sense. And Josh Jacobs, his prop for rushing is 63.5 yards. He's basically the only healthy back in Green Bay right now. They put A.J. Dillon on IR. Their rookie running back that they have has been banged up. Marshawn Lloyd just came back to practice this week for the first time in a month. I don't think they're going to trust him. He's got fumbling problems anyway. I think Jacobs is a lock for 63.5 yards. He might do that on 10 carries. He's so good, right? So I think that's an easy bet. I see, really a chance to make some really good money this week on these 2 games before the weekend even comes, because these player props to me are just really poorly placed. I mean, I don't understand how they're so low, and I have a tendency to like to bet the overs. A lot of people like to bet the unders, and I just don't think that's that much fun.
Yeah, sweating it out in the fourth quarter, don't throw to him.
Yeah, like Kirk Cousins' rushing yardage is 2.5, right? And that's a good bet, the under. I mean, he's coming off a torn Achilles. Is that guy going to take off and run?
Yeah, for 3 yards, right? And then you lose.
He's not. And even if he does, is he going to get 3 yards before someone catches him? I mean,
maybe just fall forward.
7, right? You have to be 10 feet tall to get 3 yards, But boy, oh boy, is that stressful, knowing that just one scramble loses your parlay, right? So I hate betting the unders. I'd rather bet the overs. It's just more fun.
Well, Dan, we do have to go to break, and we do have to let you go. You guys can check out Dan Neely on NFL DFS Picks. That's all letters combined. There's no spaces. NFL DFS PICKS on YouTube. Dan, one word answer real quick. Do the Bills win the division?
Absolutely. Do
the Steelers make the playoffs?
No.
I think we lost Dan, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Dan, thanks for joining us today. We'd love to have you on longer, but we do have to let you go here because we got to get the break. We're well past our break. So thanks
Time
again,
always
Dan.
Flies when Dan's here.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate
Thanks, Dan.
it.
All right.
Give me a follow on X. I'm most active on X right now.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Dan, we will talk to you soon.
Yep. See you guys.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more sports when we come back. You guys have been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll be right back to One Man's Opinion on Sports.
This is Andy Toole, men's basketball coach at Robert Morris University, here to talk about my friends at Falcone Moon Township Ford. I know what it takes to win a basketball game. It begins with practice and a team of players who want to win. The same is true of the team at Moon Township Ford. Professionals who will win you over. They'll find the best rate and terms on a car loan to help you get the best deal. Make a fast break and avoid the roadblocks that stop you from finding the car you want. Go where I go. Moon Township Ford.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Hi, this is Bob Barrickman here for Fry Transportation. When it comes to school buses in Beaver County, it sure is hard not to notice the shiny Fry Transportation fleet. Fry Transportation has been a local family-owned Beaver County business for over 30 years. As any successful football team must be dependable and reliable, these same qualities have made Fry Transportation a champion operation. Best wishes to all local teams and safe travels to the gridirons this season. From your friends at Fry Transportation.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be one practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
At Geneva College, your academic experience will prepare you with exceptional expertise in your chosen field. But what you'll learn is so much more than just that. Integrating faith and learning, you'll grow to see God's purpose and calling in your life's work. You'll be challenged to imagine how the world around you could be different and what your part might be in making that difference. You were made to live courageously. Visit geneva.edu today.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to One Man's Opinion on Sports with me, Bryan Pasquale. I'm here at the St. Barnabas Studios. Joining me today is my producer, Ryan Garazunas. You can check him out alongside co-host Mike Mueller every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube. Search Two Dumb Yinzers. That's D-U-M, Two Dumb Yinzers. They talk Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, and much, much more. Also, make sure you check us out here on Beaver County Radio Facebook Live and Beaver County Radio YouTube. All right, we've got our final segment before the start of the NFL season. Ryan, let's get into it.
All right, let's do this.
It's been almost 2 hours.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Do the Steelers win Sunday?
No. I say no. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it sweet. There's plenty of reasons that I could go into, but my short answer
Did the
is
Steelers get blown out? Like, by 10 or more?
It's possible.
Yeah, I think them losing by 10 or more is more likely than them winning.
It's going to be interesting.
I mean, you never know. The NFL is
Right.
the NFL. They can get on there and win by 21 for all we know.
Right.
And we could be like, wow, they got the high-flying offense.
If that would happen, we would all be buying our Super Bowl tickets next week, and we would just be setting ourselves up for failure, down the road.
Russell Wilson and Justin Field, they'll be like Michael Vick down there, the Vick experience.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see it happening. Then we go out to Denver. I don't know if we win or lose there. Home against the Chargers, Indianapolis. So those first 4 games, 3 are away, at Atlanta, at Denver, at home versus the Chargers, and at Indianapolis. Do we go 2-2?
I'm going to be honest with you, Bryan.
Or better.
I really have to get a litmus test here. I got to see what we could do just in the first week. Before I could make the first month, I could give you my guesses, my speculations, my predictions. But I really got to see what this team is doing at the end of the first game. Or are we going to be sitting here next week saying, okay, well, they played an okay game if they would have did this right, and they could have possibly won? It's hard for me to give you that first month. I say they will not win this game Saturday. Or I'm sorry, Sunday. But beyond that, it's really hard at this point, Bryan, to at least we have to get one game under our belts, I think, before you make those long-term predictions.
Well, Bill Cowher, he used to always break up the season into 4 segments.
Yes.
So it was a 4-week season constantly, and his goal was to win 3 out of the 4. You end up 12-4, and you're in the playoffs, and you're usually at home, right? So we could do that. There's obviously going to be an additional game added on to that, which will be the Bengals, where we have them at home in the final game of the season. But looking at the schedule here, one thing I did notice, we have 2 short weeks. We play the Ravens at home 1 p.m. on a Sunday, and then we play at the Browns that Thursday night here in November. 2 divisional games, 2 big games, and it's a short week.
They certainly didn't do us any favors.
The Ravens usually wear you out. You need those full 6 days off to recoup. But no, we have to go and travel and go into Cleveland. Who knows what their quarterback situation will look like at that point. That could be our only hope with that. Then the other one I noticed is weeks 16 and 17, which would be our 15th and 16th game. We play Saturday at 4:30 at Baltimore again. And then we play that Wednesday, which I believe is Christmas, with the Chiefs at home.
It's gonna. Any way you slice it, this is going to be a tough season. I mean, obviously.
How do you win 2 out of those 4 games is my question.
Right. When these other teams aren't having the same kind of situation. If they were also in a similar situation, then you could start to, to justify it. But this is going to be extremely difficult. I don't know who the Ravens play before or after us in these particular cases, but this is going to be a long season. As I said, we just got to get our feet wet. I got to see what these Steelers can do on Sunday. Then we could, maybe make some more accurate assessments. But until then, it's going to be tough. I got to see what this quarterback could do. We have to see what this offensive line is going to do. We got to see if these receivers are going to step up. We have to see if the defense could continue. We have an aging defensive line. A lot of questions, Bryan, heading into this first week of the season. So my opinion, enjoy game 1 and game 2 before the weekend even start, because it might be a lot of heart attacks and sweating and all the things that we got used to while watching Pittsburgh Steelers football games.
All right, I'm going to need from you for this game, win, lose, or draw, 2 stars of the game. Okay, special teams is out because we always know Boswell would be probably our star. A star on offense and a star on defense. You're not allowed to have Russell Wilson or any quarterback, and you're not allowed to have TJ Watt. Who do you think will be the most productive offensive player for the Steelers against the Falcons?
I think it's going to be Jaylen Warren. I think that they're going to run, and then run some more. Because of this, I think that Jaylen Warren's built more for that kind of situation. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Najee Harris, but I think that Jaylen Warren will be the guy that at the end of the game you're going to say, "Wow, did you see all those plays that he was able to make?" I think it's going to be Jaylen Warren on offense and on defense. Let's go with the new guy, Dante Jackson.
Dante Jackson and Jaylen Warren. I like it. I really like it. My next question for you, Ryan, is on offense, will Van Jefferson and or Pat Freiermuth have over 50 yards receiving? Will either of them go over 50 yards?
Will either one of those guys go over 50 yards? I do believe, one of them.
And if so, which one do you think will?
More than likely Van Jefferson.
Yeah. I agree, especially throwing to the outside.
Absolutely.
I've seen him make a lot of sideline catches in the preseason. The one I watched, they called him out of bounds. He was in bounds. It was clear as day. Mike Tomlin didn't challenge it.
Yes, I can recall.
But, it's preseason, so I don't hold it against him. But, that's something that he would mess up in the regular season, too.
I think Pat Freiermuth should certainly be utilized more in the offense. I don't think that he will be. It's going to be a continuance of what we've seen last year. For whatever reason, you're going to see changes, but you're going to see a lot similar. This is going to be one that we're going to be able to tell a lot about this team, Bryan.
All right. One more question for you, Ryan, on the spot here. Who will be the rookie of the year for the Steelers when it's all said and done at the end of the season?
Peyton Wilson, I'm thinking, is my front runner. And just depending on what Roman Wilson could do, of course, there's a lot could be said about the offensive line and what Fatanu's going to do, but I think that it will be one of the Wilson guys.
Let's see, I was going to go with Zach Frazier.
Okay. Hey, that's not a bad answer either.
I mean, he's not going to have any stats.
Yeah.
But it's, did he do the job? Did he,
What people were thinking about Roman Wilson, people were thinking, maybe he can become a Hines Ward. Maybe he could surprise us. So on that note, on the offense,
if he catches the ball and stays in bounds and gets tackled, he's going to be one of my favorite players right off the bat just because he doesn't do what George Pickens and all these other receivers do, or catch the ball and they don't want to be touched, so they run out of bounds instead of getting an extra 5-10 yards.
Come out
or
there,
breaking one.
Or where, one of these guys after the play's over where you point at the TV and you go, that's a football player right there. That's what I want to see. But as I said, one of the Wilson boys, I believe, will be your rookie of the year for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. Well, 10 a.m. this Sunday, everyone.
Yes.
Tune in to the hairy half of the Two Dumb Yinzers and yours truly. You can check us out on YouTube. You can go on to Two Dumb Yinzers and watch our live stream, or you can go on to One Man's Opinion on Sports and watch the live stream from there. Ryan and I will be doing a 1-hour pregame show for the NFL season. We'll be talking, 80% Steelers, 20% rest of the NFL?
About that, yeah. And you know what?
Give or take.
Very little restrictions as well on the internet. So, guys, you may hear things that you wouldn't hear right here on the radio. So I encourage you, swing by and check it out.
All right, everyone. You've been listening to WBVP 99.3 FM and 1230 AM. We'll see you back here in 166 hours.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Oh my goodness, Amy, it's so good to see you.
Jennifer, how are you?